A very good morning to you, and a very good morning to Peter Bleksley. Nice to see you, Peter.
Good morning, Governor.
We've got plenty to talk about this morning. I guess we should kick off with this, the second anniversary of October the 7th. It's hard to believe that here we are about to talk about what should be a commemoration of some terrible stuff that happened 2 years ago, and instead we're talking about people wanting to demonstrate and protest about it, but sort of in favour of it almost.
Let's just rewind 2 years, if we may, please, to that revolting, disgusting attack, much of which you've spoken about in your opener there.
Yeah.
Not only were over 1,000 people murdered, butchered, raped, slaughtered, but 250 people were taken hostage, many of whom have subsequently died, some, a small number, of whom have been returned. But as we speak, a number of these people have now been held in captivity for 2 years. And when I say captivity, I'm not talking about a small cell, for example. We are talking being imprisoned in drains, in hovels, in absolutely subhuman circumstances.
Many of them haven't seen the outside world. They've been in tunnels, right, for 2 years.
Yes, indeed. And my thoughts today are with those hostages who are still held captive 2 years on. And as far as I'm concerned, you cannot negotiate with a terrorist organisation that thinks that hostage taking is some kind of legitimate bargaining tool. Now, of course, there are brighter and bigger people than me involved in negotiations with them, and so be it. I hope that brings about an end to this war. But today, primarily, my thoughts are with those people held underground, starved, not afforded one shred of humanity by their captors. And then we contrast that with idiotic, stupid, perverse students who want to hold commemorative events. And are these events to honour the Jewish people that were slaughtered that day? And are they held with a view to ramping up the pressure on a terrorist organisation to release hostages? No, they are not. And shame upon each and every person who takes part in any such gathering today.
Exactly right. And let's have a look at some of those gatherings, right? Because the protests are taking place literally 5 days after an Islamist terror attack on a synagogue in Manchester, right? Some of them have got events entitled Honour Our Martyrs. Some are celebrating 2 years of resistance since Hamas took those hostages. And I find it absolutely staggering that this is the country that Britain has now become. Because I've said this many times before. You know, I grew up in the 70s, as you did, when there was lots of activity going on in the Middle East. There was the 6-Day War, there was the fight for the Golan Heights. I mean, it's all kind of imprinted on my memory. You know, Golda Meir was on the television screens every night. But there were none of these protests, and I always say the reason why there were none of these protests is because there were none of those people here. But an awful lot of those people from that part of the world are now here, and they're demonstrating on behalf of what they would call their homeland. Well, you know what? Go back to your bleeding homeland and don't come here and start doing terrible things and killing people on the streets of Britain and demonstrating on behalf of Hamas. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that any Jewish listeners or viewers will forgive me for what I'm about to say now, because I'm going to move the story slightly to pick up on what you've said. Last year, net migration into this country was 750,000 people, almost entirely down to migration. People coming in to this country. Last week, 2,213 people, illegal migrants, entered the UK on 33 dinghies. You see where I'm going with this, but it is relevant, okay? The first census held after my birth, 1961, revealed that there were 21,000 Muslims in the UK. There are now 4 million. You don't have to search the internet too deeply to find images and videos of people saying that they have come to this country not to integrate, but to take over. Now, when all of the aforementioned, which actually are cold, hard facts, when they are taken into account, as they are, by many, many, many people who are concerned about their children and their grandchildren and what the state of this country will be, not at the next general election, but in 20 years' time, in 30, 40 years' time, long after we've left this planet, but probably our grandchildren won't, and they will be alive and looking to maybe have a home, to earn some money, to live a decent life. Where is this country going? What is the direction of travel? The migration system is completely and utterly out of hand, utterly unsustainable and out of control. And I'm sure that there are millions of people that come the next general election, whensoever that will be, they will vote for a party that not only says it's going to do something about it, but proves that it has the wherewithal, the talent, the people to actually do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Couldn't agree with you more. Let's have a look at what Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick has to say about these protests.
There are protests being scheduled in universities for October the 7th. I think that's a disgrace, frankly. That's an absolute disgrace.
So, he says it's an effing disgrace. We'll be talking to Robert Jenrick a little bit later on in the show. That was him yesterday up at a sort of a fringe gathering, a fringe meeting up at the Tory party conference. And he's right, it is a disgrace, and I don't know how we got here. I mean, I kind of do know how we got here, but you know what I mean? It's a sort of rhetorical, I don't know how we got here. I don't know where ordinary, decent British values have gone. I think people are starting to show them now. But I can tell you, one of the things that gives you a clue as to how we got here was watching Gary Neville yesterday. I don't know if you saw him speaking about how it's all the fault of people like you and I, angry, middle-aged white men, apparently. You won't be surprised to know that some people, like me, really, really disagreed with him, but some people also agreed with him. Here's Syra Khan, who's got something to say about it.
You see a lot of men on marches that want these flags up. They are white, angry men who are dissatisfied with their own lives, and so the only way they can do it is by going out and being like that. That's what I see on a lot of these protests.
So when she would describe some of the marches that will be going on today, there are not a lot of angry middle-aged white men at those marches. There are a lot of idiotic young white men at those marches, and there are plenty of brown men at those marches as well. What does she have to say about them?
I've no idea who that stupid woman is.
She looks a lot fatter when we used to work with her years ago. She must be on the Ozempic, I think.
My local railway station is called Albany Park.
Oh, yeah.
It sits between Sidcup and Bexley in South East London. And of late, the little parade of shops that surround Albany Park Station have been bedecked, adorned and beautified by a considerable number of Union Jacks hanging from the lampposts. They look wonderful.
Yes.
And so many people really, really enjoy them. Because you know what I said earlier about the changing shape and demographics of this country. They're put up there and they provide pleasure to many people who want to cling to Britain.
And want to remember what it was like.
Britain, who actually have pride in it. And no, we're not all angry, and I might go for a rant when I'm on your show or when I'm speaking elsewhere, absolutely fine. But I'm perfectly happy with my lot. What I am not happy with is the state of concern.
People do get angry, particularly when we witnessed what happened last Thursday outside the mosque in Manchester, you know, because people go, hang on a minute, outside the synagogue rather, you know, because people go, you know, how has this happened? How have we got to a place where a guy has been brought here by his parents from Syria, he grows up in the bosom of a family, he grows up in the bosom of the family of Great Britain, and at some point or other, at the age of 35, he's already out on bail for raping a woman, he decides he's going to go and attack a load of innocent Jewish people just because they're Jewish.
Yes.
You know, what are we doing importing these bleeding people?
Yes.
You know?
Radicalised by fundamental Islam, clearly. 80% of the workload of our counter-terrorism police and our security services, or thereabouts, is Islamic fundamentalism. Okay? It's a huge, considerable threat. We all remember 7/7. We all remember Lee Rigby. We all remember many other
9/11. Let's not forget 9/11.
Of course.
And let's not forget, before 9/11, they tried to blow up the World Trade Center several years before that.
Yep, indeed. All under the leadership of Osama bin Laden. And so it goes. So people are rightfully concerned about radical Islam.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. If there's anybody from the Tory party listening, or Reform, or anybody come to that, you might want to prick your ears up for a moment. Why don't we ask of the counter-terrorism police and the security services, what is the immigration status of those people which make up 80% of your workload? They must know, because they're watching them.
Right.
They're on a watch list.
Yep.
So let's find out. And if they do not have the right to be in this country, in other words, if they are anything other than fully fledged British citizens, and they're on the watch list, round them up, stick them on a plane and get them the hell out of this country.
Yeah, absolutely right. Trouble is, of course, some of them are actually British citizens, like the guy who attacked the synagogue in Manchester.
Indeed.
He was given British citizenship.
Indeed.
But apparently he didn't want it. He'd rather have stayed where he was. Well, maybe he should have stayed where he was. Let's have a look at what was happening last night in North London. This is a place called Muswell Hill that some of you may know. I do know it quite well. This is a woman cutting hostage ribbons off a fence. I don't know what is wrong with these people. Check this out.
I never understand these people who are video people. What's your name? What's your name? Feel so proud of yourself. What's your name?
You're not going to do this.
Not going to do what?
I'm not committing a crime.
Yes, you are.
You're doing something that is...
I am, then call the police. You call the police and you let them know that you have an issue with this.
You disgusting little human being. You're disgusting.
I think condoning genocide is disgusting.
Oh, yeah, so we support genocide. Oh, yes.
And so...
Yeah, sure.
Because that's what this is.
No, it's not.
What? Ribbons for people who have been imprisoned, abducted, Yeah, we're going to show the world what you're doing. You're going to be famous.
Yeah, you would love that.
I'm a journalist. I work for a national newspaper. This is going straight to the Daily Telegraph.
I mean, this is a woman... We saw a lot of this back in the early days 2 years ago. People putting up ribbons to commemorate the fact that people have been taken hostage, as you say, still being held hostage underground in the most terrible condition. A yellow ribbon signifies that. This woman's cutting them down.
That clown Starmer will probably take to the airwaves whenever we do hear from him.
Yeah, he's been very quiet.
And spout off about what a tolerant nation we are.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, many of us are tolerant.
Yeah.
We are tolerant of yellow ribbons.
Yeah.
We walk past them, we might like them.
Yeah.
We do not cut them down.
Right.
That example there is of an intolerant person who's cutting them down, who is basically desecrating a form of memory or remembrance of hostages who have been taken.
Yeah.
And you see, what will her politics be? We know it.
Yeah.
She will be of the lunatic left.
Yes.
What will those people holding those vile gatherings, protests, call them what you will today, on the second anniversary of October the 7th, what will they be? What will their political leanings be?
They'll be left-wing.
They most certainly will. And they will be revolting.
And he doesn't call out the far left. He doesn't call out the left. He only calls out the far right.
Only the far right. Only people who want to adorn their local neighbourhood with beautiful flags, whether they be the St George's Cross or the Union Jack.
Yeah.
And so it goes.
Yes. Luckily, there are other people like us, and here's one of them. Simon Jordan, TalkSport's very own mid-morning host. Here's what he had to say about Gary Neville yesterday.
I think it's astonishing, in the wake of an Islamist terror attack, that he decides to have a go at middle-aged white men. Maybe the angry middle-aged white men are the ones that worked on minimum wage inside his hotel. I don't know. I think he's a champagne socialist and a coward. I think it's a dreadful thing to have said.
How is he a coward?
Well, I think the real issue is about radical Islamist extremism, and he doesn't have the balls to call it out for what it is, rather than suggest that people that are challenged in our country about what's happening, he's insulated from these things. He lives in a very rarefied world where his money and privilege has enabled him to live behind a gated environment, not have to worry about NHS appointments, not have to worry about people being attacked in the streets by immigrants that shouldn't be here in the first place. He doesn't have to worry about these things, and so he has the ability to be able to sit there and observe in such a way that insulates himself from it. And I think it's an appalling stance to have taken.
Well said, Mr.
Very
Jordan.
well said, Mr. Jordan.
Yeah.
I doff my cap to you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've got plenty more to talk about, including, of course, we've got a bit of Donald Trump to come for you, and we will be taking your calls, of course. Let's take a few soundings from you already. Morning, Mike and Peter, says Nan in Wales. I've had a bleeding gutful of these Palestinian protesters. It's nothing more than disgusting behaviour from imbeciles. It's about bloody time us Brits stood up tall and put a stop to it. And that, of course, is what the government is planning to do, they say, by stopping these protests. But, you know, Keir Starmer looks for all the world like a bloke who's not in control of his own job, never mind in control of the country. Surely to Christ, on a day like today, 2 years on from October the 7th, he should be saying to these student protesters, whoever they are, just don't do it. And if you do it, we'll lock you up and we'll fine you £1,000 each. And I'm sure that would bloody well stop them.
It would do if only we had the legislation on the statute book that would allow the police to do it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what we're seeing now with the Palestine Action protests, and this is all linked inextricably.
Of course it
is that they are trying to break the system. It's why they've turned up in huge numbers, and on the first occasion 500 or so were arrested. Then it was 900. Then we saw more than 500 odd arrested this weekend. They're trying to clog up and therefore break and grind it to a halt the criminal justice system. That's what they're trying to do. But of course, what they did on Saturday was particularly odious because they knew they would be drawing police resources away from protecting synagogues, for example, and other places of worship. And as I predicted last week, sadly, mosques would need to be protected because there will be idiots out there that will go and attack those. And so those selfish people with this poisonous, really toxic, poisonous attitude towards their cause is so damaging and so divisive. And then when you have clowns like Neville, who is, of course, as Mr. Jordan pointed out, wealthy enough to be a socialist,
of course,
spouting off, I'm afraid the tolerance of this nation is being severely tested. The tolerance of what I lovingly call the moderate mainstream of Britain, who go to work, who pay their taxes, who raise great children, who contribute to this nation, and who, in decades gone by, were largely silent and only expressed their politics when a general election came round and they put an X in a box, whichever it was that favoured them. Now, this country has slid and is sliding so inexorably towards becoming an absolute hellhole. We've got lunatic left people indoctrinating the young when they go to universities, and that's another fact, and which results in these disgusting gatherings that are scheduled to take place today. What is happening to this once great nation? Give us a political party with talent, with commitment, with the brains to do what needs to be done to restore this country and stop the rot.
Yes, absolutely right. And to do that, I think they need to start punishing these people properly. It seems to me financially more than anything else. And if they can't pay, get their bleeding parents to pay, because they'd all have big houses somewhere in suburbia. 0344 499 1000. Peter Bleksley's here. I'm here at 6:25. Back after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:29 in the morning. We're here till 10 o'clock, of course. It is the second anniversary of October the 7th, when 2 years ago, Hamas, a terrorist, ghastly, one of the worst terrorist groups in the history of terror, killed 1,195 people, while 251 others were abducted. Most of the hostages have been freed under previous ceasefire deals, but as Peter Bleksley, who's here with me, said this morning, 48 are still held in Gaza, around 20 of whom are believed still by Israel to be alive. And what we're going to have today, apparently, rather than flags being put down at half-mast and people having silent vigils and lighting candles and maybe tying yellow ribbons on fences. No, we're not going to have that today. What we're going to have is a bunch of students and a bunch of scumbags stamping around various university campuses of this country to commemorate what they're calling the Great Resistance. Some people calling it a revolution of their martyrs. They want to honour our martyrs. I mean, these are people who are basically honouring murderers. I find it sickening, quite frankly, Peter, and so do you, I think. One of the stories that we're going to talk about in a minute is the Manchester attacker, Jihad al-Shami, a 35-year-old, did not appear to be known to counter-terrorism officials, as far as we know, before he made that attack in Heaton Park synagogue, leading to the deaths of 2 worshippers on Yom Kippur. But neighbours of his apparently said that they had contacted Manchester police some years before because of their worries about the way that he was behaving, to wit, walking up and down the street where he lived, telling kids about the Quran.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of things here. Greater Manchester Police have denied that they've had any such reports.
Yeah.
But let's remember, that's a police service that not long ago got absolutely lambasted because it failed to record tens upon tens of thousands of crimes.
Yeah.
So they can't actually say with any confidence whether that was reported to them or not.
Because they don't know.
So we'll just ignore what they say, because it could well have been reported, but they had such abysmal recording practices, it might not have been recorded. Right. So that we need to very much keep in our minds.
Okay.
But the second thing is, right, walking up and down a street, preaching to kids or whatever it is, trying to ram religion down somebody's throat is so very un-British.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I'm not a man of faith.
Yeah.
I was as a kid, but once I joined the police, believe you me, I saw a lot of ungodly things.
I bet you did.
Which made me scupper religion. But I'm deeply respectful of people's faith.
Yeah.
I know how hugely important it is to people, how much comfort they get in times of trouble, and how much inspiration I get. And I have friends who have strongly held religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And good luck to them.
Right.
I love my friends. Okay? But this really cuts to the very nub of it. I don't know if you've had this happen recently, and I haven't, but do you remember when Jehovah's Witnesses used to knock at your door?
Absolutely.
Right? Okay?
Yeah.
And try and ram
I think they
their
still do
faith.
it, actually, yeah.
I haven't had it for a long time, but I did some years ago.
Right.
And I could tell exactly what they are. You know exactly who they are when they arrive. So I invited them in, right? And they're thinking, oh, hang on, we might have a convert here, right? I got them into my kitchen, right? Having closed the front door quite firmly, of course. I didn't lock them in.
Right.
I didn't unlawfully imprison them.
No, of course
just
not.
in case the Commissioner of the Met's listening and thinks, oh, here's an easy nicking.
Yeah.
Right? And I turned around and I said, gentlemen, I know exactly what you're trying to do, but please, bear this in mind. I know where the local church is, be that Church of England or Catholic. I know where the synagogue is.
Yeah.
I know where the mosque is. I know where the Gurdwara is down in Gravesend. I know where all the places of worship are, should I wish to go and follow or explore or examine any of those faiths.
Yeah.
I do not need you coming to my door trying to ram your faith down my throat.
Yeah.
Same as if I see you in the street, I won't try and convert you to supporting Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Yes.
Yes.
So, kindly do not do it and never come here again.
No.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Because it's un-British.
It is.
Ramming faith.
Did they leave you the
somebody's
free
throat.
newspaper that they do? Or the magazine?
I didn't need it.
Watchtower, I think it used to be called, didn't it?
I'd made my views perfectly clear.
Yeah.
And off they toddled.
It's quite good for fire, kindling.
I've got central heating, Mike.
I once had them come and visit me when I was unemployed, actually, because I'd been fired by Daily Express, and I was hanging around at home, and I lived in Wiltshire at the time, and we had this sort of big gate where you'd come in where the car came in, and we had a big dog in those days as well, who was very nice, but didn't see people very often, and they came in through the gate, and I just heard the dog barking. I went out, and he was like, "Rrr," and they were pinned against the gate like this, sort of going, "Oh, this dog looks like it'd eat both of us." And I did the same as you, because I had nothing better to do, so I just engaged him in conversation, argued with him for about half an hour, and then told him to get lost.
And that's why they were the brunt of so much humour, and comedians did stand-up routines about them and all that stuff, because it's essentially un-British.
Yes.
Very, very un-British to ram your faith down other people's throats.
Yeah.
But from what I see and what I hear is that followers of Islam seem to be almost hell-bent, get the pun, on ramming their faith or trying to convert others.
Yes.
It seems like it's their mission.
Yes.
Keep it to yourself. We're not interested.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Same goes for Gary Neville. Keep it to yourself, mate. Let's get a voice note from Mark.
Yeah, good morning, Mike and Peter. It's Mark in Lancashire. Well, it's my humble opinion that jihadis like this guy who stabbed those poor unfortunate Jews to death in Manchester are slipping through the net because the police and the security services are stuffed with people with similar opinions to Gary Neville, who think it's actually racist just to focus on the real problem, which is Islamic terrorism, and that they have to add balance, they have to conflate everything by also going after this imaginary problem of the far right, which they do by going round to people's houses at midnight, talking to them about posts on Facebook, which are totally not the problem. However, people like Gary Neville think it is. People putting up flags, taking down Palestine flags that we're all sick of. People like Gary Neville and the people who are in charge of where police resources are put, that's what they think the problem is, and that's the issue.
That is the issue. Shawnee Kidderminster says, morning Mike and Peter, Starmer says don't take part in un-British protests. His party is making this country un-British. What does he expect? I think that's true. Yeah. I think Keir Starmer's got an awful lot to be answerable for in the way that he has talked about the flag representing... Remember when he was talking about the Union flag representing diversity? And I spoke to many people, you included, I think, on this, and I said, that's rubbish. You know, the Union flag does not represent diversity. It represents tradition, represents British history, represents us as a British people. It does not represent a load of people who came to this country subsequently and then decided that they were now British. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
And most importantly, what it represents through the red, white and blue is Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom. It represents us all. It's diversity. No, it represents the four nations. And for me, it kind of gives me a rather nostalgic tinge about the Britain we've been talking about this morning. That tolerant Britain, but we were tolerant because people didn't ram their views and their faiths down your throat.
And also they didn't hate you for not being like them.
Exactly.
Right? Because tolerance is about accepting other people for what they are. These people don't want to accept anybody for what they are. They hate you for what they are. They hate Jewish people for being Jewish. They hate Christians for being Christian. You know, they hate British people for saying they want to wave a Union Jack. That's what we're talking about.
And they hate non-believers like me for being a non-believer. It's intolerant, it's un-British, those kind of views. Those kind of views, if people hold them, it is essentially un-British. It is a counterpoint to everything that I've known about this once brilliant nation in the 65 years I've lived here.
Absolutely right. And of course you're now getting castigated, as I am, by certain people on the left who are saying, oh, all they want to do is talk down the country. That's not true. We want to talk the country up. But we don't want to do the country down, and we don't want to see other people doing it down, and we don't want to see other people changing the face of it for the worse. It's that simple. 0344 499 1000. We've got loads more to talk about. We've got Trump back on TikTok. We'll get some views of his coming up. This from Ian. He says, Hamas's behaviour is unforgivable. Netanyahu's behaviour is unforgivable. They are both as bad as each other. Let's have some balance, please. That is absolutely wrong, Ian. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all. You know, Netanyahu is a freely elected Prime Minister of a democratic nation. Hamas are terrorists, pure and simple. The reason that people are innocently killed in Israel is because Hamas went after them deliberately to kill them. The reason that innocents are killed in Gaza is because Hamas used them as human shields, so that when they're being attacked by the IDF, they're putting children out front, they're putting women out front, and that's why they're getting killed. Hamas are a terrorist organisation. They are a ghastly, awful incarnation of evil. And whatever you might think of Benjamin Netanyahu, he is not that. This is Talk. Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. Peter Bleksley's here with me. Good morning, Mike and Peter. Peter for Prime Minister, says Kate in the Wirral. I drove to Stockport yesterday and came off at the Red Rock roundabout. Every single street light with alternate Union Jack and England flags all the way into the centre. Looked bloody amazing. A great job and much applause for the people of Stockport. It does give you a sense of pride, doesn't it, when you see that, as you were saying?
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. And there are people who go, oh, you know, like Gary Neville, why are people putting flags up? You know, they used to put flags up. Somebody said to me yesterday, well, there's a reason why we're putting flags up now, but we didn't do it 10 or 15 years ago, was because people 10 or 15 years ago were frightened, because they were frightened of being accused of racism. And now, happily, they're not frightened anymore.
and sadly now are being branded racist or Islamophobic.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Because the left, they have used it when it has been entirely inappropriate. It has worn wafer thin.
It has.
So I don't care what anybody calls me. I could not give a monkey's uncle.
Right.
That insult has worn so thin as to be utterly worthless.
Exactly. I've never cared what people call me, to be honest. I've been called names all my life. You know, some by my ex-wife as well. Anyway, listen, biggest phone gang smash. This is an interesting one. Daily Mail front page. Police hold kingpins who sent thousands of stolen mobiles to Hong Kong high-rise, exposed by the Daily Mail. 300 officers swooped on 28 homes across London simultaneously yesterday in the dead of night to arrest groups of pickpockets and robbers behind an epidemic of snatch thefts. Now, you'll know people who have had their phone nicked. You might have even had one nicked yourself. Mine was nicked last September, by some scumbag on a moped, right? It now turns out that this is all organised. And there's thousands of phones being stolen. 40,000 phones stolen and sent to China and Hong Kong.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Before I forget, this is Operation Echo Steep, run by the Metropolitan Police.
Okay.
I always like to praise when it is well deserved. And to Detective Inspector Mark Gavin and his team and all the officers that helped on this operation, well done, ladies and gentlemen. Proper policing, which I love. Let me start at the beginning of this story.
Nicking proper villains.
Yeah, exactly. Christmas last year, a woman has her phone snatched and she follows it. She can track it, like so many people do on their devices. She tracks it to a warehouse at Heathrow Airport. Working on security there at Heathrow, propping up supporting his police pension, is a cop who did over 30 years, right? And he obviously comes from a period of policing when you got the job done. So he said, really? Your phone's in here? Well, let's have a little look. Let's go find it. And this cop, obviously, clearly with no regard for protocol, standing orders or whatever woke nonsense might have stopped him doing his job properly, finds a number of boxes, but a particular box, packaged up, going to Hong Kong, listed as batteries. And actually, that lady's phone was in that box along with hundreds of others. And so began an investigation. Picked up by the Daily Mail, all credit to them. They went to Hong Kong, where those boxes of phones were destined for.
They had the address,
got into the offices, photographed them. Thousands of stolen mobile phones. Of course, they've notified the police of what they're doing. The Met Star Operation Echo Steep. These phones were destined for China. Because China is a very autocratic country, and many mobile phones that are stolen in China do not allow the owners to access the internet. Which is why they want our phones.
So they want our phones, even though they make them in China.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So they send them all the way here, and then they send them all the way back.
Oh, the irony.
Isn't it just?
So, these thousands of phones, about 250 a day, that are getting nicked in London, right, and then go to kind of like a middleman who parcels them all together, gets them packaged off, over they go to Hong Kong. So different layers of serious organised crime.
Quite a complex sort of criminal enterprise.
Just like the illegal drugs industry, but in reverse. Instead of stuff coming into the country, this is stuff going out of the country with those layers. It's virtually the model replicated. And of course, so it's a great story. Will it affect the numbers of phones getting stolen in the UK is the question. And my answer to that is I fear not. Because just like the illegal drugs industry, this is a supply and demand industry. And for as long as there is the demand in China for these phones, there will be criminals on the street who can snatch, rob, steal, pickpocket the phones, get paid for it, and produce the supply.
Yes. I mean, what people say to me is that if the manufacturers of the phones actually got their act together and made it impossible for a stolen phone to be used, for example, and blocked it in some way, or you could sort of, you know, geo-block it in some way, that would probably stop the crime. But, of course, they don't want to do that because every time you get your phone nicked, you have to get another phone. So they're making money out of it as well, albeit, you know, sort of, you know, indirectly.
Indeed, and the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, has been calling upon Apple repeatedly to invent a kill switch for the phone So when it's stolen, that's it.
It's
it
worthless.
won't work.
Yeah.
Because whilst you can block your phone so it won't work in the UK, once it goes out of the country and into other jurisdictions,
they can jailbreak it,
they can, and bring it back to life.
Exactly right. Let's have a look at this guy. This is a bloke called Aris Goldberg. He's an American liberal, right? Came to live in London. This is what he's got to say about the crime levels.
After this ride on the London Tube, I got a whole new perspective. Say what you want about Trump, you all know. I voted for Biden, I voted for Harris. I gotta be honest with you, I'm making the swing fast. There's a lot of things going on in the world, a lot of things that I'm seeing in Europe, a lot of things that I'm seeing in London. Strike up a nice conversation with a good guy in London. He's talking, he's like, listen, there's a lot of the British people, a lot of people in London, for all his shortcomings, they want Trump here. Because the crime is out of control, immigration is out of control. Every single person has told me, don't walk with your phone out, don't wear a watch in Mayfair, don't do it. Even right now, I'm about to turn a corner on the street, I got to worry about holding my phone because some moron might come by on an e-bike, try and grab it. Obviously, I'll run his ass down, you know this. But what's going on across the world is a real problem.
And I mean, that's how an awful lot of people feel in London, you know. As I said, you know, when I got my phone nicked, I did exactly what I told everybody else not to do, which is just to get it out on the street. And not because I couldn't see a guy because of the way that Sadiq Khan has now reconstructed Britain's streets. I was standing at a bus stop, so I didn't see the bloke coming from behind the bus stop, coming around and just taking it out of my hand.
Yeah.
You know, it's just incredible.
And, of course, there is one huge flaw with what that young man said.
He's talking into his phone.
Well, no, if he could outrun an e-bike, he should be in the Olympics and not doing whatever he's doing.
Absolutely right. That's the problem. You know, you can run after people and you see people catch them if they're on a push bike, but not if they're on one of these speedy e-bikes or a moped.
Scooters.
What mine was. Yeah. Anyway, we're coming back with some Trump for you. Also, more of your messages. This one from Phil in Coventry. He says, morning, Mike and Peter. Nothing to do with religion, but I too had someone knock at my door to sell me an American vacuum cleaner. I got him to vacuum the whole house and I told him I wasn't interested. Showed him the door. I've not seen him since. Very good. 10 minutes to 7. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:54. I'm Mike Graham and Peter Bleksley is here with me. This from Trevor in Harrow. He says, morning Mike, let's remember that Gary Neville really represents the views of the Labour Party no matter what they say. I think that's the thing that is most revealing actually as well. Let's have a look at Donald Trump though, because it's time for some entertainment. He was talking just the other day about Greta Thunberg, who was of course in detention in Israel. Some of her supporters have been saying that, you know, that she's been taken hostage, that, you know, I mean, it's laughable, isn't it, the way that they talk about, almost as somebody said to me, you know, maybe she should try a couple of years in a tunnel, see how she feels then. But this is what Donald Trump had to say about Greta.
She's just a troublemaker, you know. I mean, she's no longer into the environment now. She's into this. She's a troublemaker. She has an anger management problem. I think she should see a doctor. She needs anger. If you ever watch her, she's a young person. She's so angry. She's so crazy. Now you can have her. She's just a troublemaker.
Brilliant. I mean,
see a doctor.
See a doctor.
He's not wrong, is he?
He's not. He's absolutely right. And he's back on TikTok as well. Have a look at this.
To all of those young people of TikTok, I saved TikTok, so you owe me big, and now you're looking at me in the Oval Office, and someday one of you are going to be sitting right at this desk, and you're going to be doing a great job also.
Brilliant. He is tremendous, isn't he? And here's a Fox News alert about Barack Obama.
Fox News alert, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Well, you know, no doubt they'll be talking about that for years to come. You a Jilly Cooper fan by any chance?
No, I'm not. when her books were at their peak of their powers, I was probably reading Harold Robbins.
Probably, yes. Or even Jeffrey Archer.
No,
I mean, whatever you may
Robbins,
say about Jeffrey Archer, his books were pretty good, actually.
Yeah, no, when I was in those teenage years, reading exploratory novels as they were for me then,
indeed.
I was very much in the Harold Robbins camp.
There's a lot of great tributes to her. The best one for me is from Piers Morgan's wife, actually, Celia Walden, in The Telegraph, where she says she went to see her one day at 11:55 a.m. And Jilly Cooper said, would it be indecent to start on the champagne at noon? Which is absolutely brilliant. And she says, I can't lie, I was shocked, not at the noon tippling. She can pop that cork and pour us both a couple of fish bowls now. It's the notion of decency that's got me all shook up, because, of course, you know, she was known for indecency and these kind of bonk busters, as they used to be called in the day. And she died sadly yesterday at the age of 88 after a fall. But she was great. I mean, again, talk about the best of British. Jilly Cooper kind of encapsulates all of that, doesn't she?
The huge amount of pleasure that she's brought to her readers over the years. What is it, 12 million books?
Amazing, just in Britain alone,
And now with the TV serialisation, it's just wonderful. She's still entertaining the nation.
And when you die, if you make page one of The Sun, as you do there, romp in peace, Jilly, I think you can say that you've had a pretty successful life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
May she rest in peace.
May she rest in peace indeed. And one final one for you. According to the museum, at the museum types at the Walker Art Gallery, Lord Nelson is queer.
Yes, well, kiss me, Hardy.
I thought it was kismet. I thought there was an argument about whether he said kiss me or kismet.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, they seem to be basing it entirely on the fact that he said, kiss me Hardy.
Either way, not only what he did for the British Navy am I indebted to Admiral Nelson, right? And, of course, we all love his statue at the top of Trafalgar.
Nelson's Column,
Column.
Absolutely.
Trafalgar Square. But he's given me that great expression, which I will now, to put it into some context, say, what are the chances of Keir Starmer being an effective and capable Prime Minister? You got more chance of Nelson getting his eye back.
Very good. I haven't actually heard that one, but I'll take that. Very good, well said. Keir Starmer, by the way, has gone missing. Nobody knows where he is. He's written a piece in the Times today, but he hasn't actually been seen. He hasn't said anything publicly since last Friday, when he went up to Manchester to visit the scene of the synagogue attack. Where is he? It's now Tuesday. It's the anniversary of October the 7th. He's off to India later. Is he ever going to come and talk to us? I wonder. This is Talk.